Sadashiva-samarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om. Param varishtham brahmishtham paramanandarupinam paramarthanandayatim sadgurum pranatosmyaham. Vasudevendra yogindram natva jnanapradam gurum mumukshunam hitarthaya Tattvabodho bhidhiyate. Bhagini, you can chant after me. Karana Shareeram kim.
Kaarana Shareeram kim. Anirvachyanadya vidyarupam.
Shareeradvayasya karanamatram.
Shareeradvayasya karanamatram.
Tatsvarupajnanam.
Satsvarupajnanam.
Nirvikalpakarupam.
Nirvikalpakarupam.
Yadasti tatkarana shareeram.
Yadasti tatkarana shareeram.
So, Karana Shareeram Kim. We had just started this topic in the last class. So, we will see what is the Karana Shareeram. What is the causal body? This particular section is going to be very, very new. So, you may want to note down the terms somewhere so that, it is easy for you to follow. So, the author is analyzing the nature of the individual, who is basically a mixture of two portions or components, one being the material component, anatma, and the other being the spiritual part, which is called atma. Since both of them are mixed together, the author wants to distinguish both of them so that we have a clear understanding of both. So first, the material portion of the individual is being analyzed, which itself, as we saw, is divided into 11 subdivisions consisting of 3 bodies, Shareera Trayam, 5 Koshas, Pancha Kosha, and 3 Avasthas, 3 states. Right? And the author is explaining each one of them from the 3 bodies onwards. So we saw Sthula Shareeram, we saw Sukshma Shareeram, and now we are entering Karana Shareeram. And we completed Sukshma Shareeram in great detail in the last class. Okay? Towards the end, I will summarize again, but it is better to remember the previous classes when you attend subsequent classes, because otherwise you will start losing the trail, basically. Right? So, Sthula Shareeram was the visible part. Sukshma Shareeram was the invisible part, which is the Jnanendriyam, Karmendriyam, Buddhi, Manaha, etc. Right? And I also gave you an example, and I said it's like it is considered to be a temporary office or a residence, right, where we remain until the individual transactions are required, right, with the world. So it is basically a temporary residence. And once the Sthula Shareeram transactions are over with the world, then this residence is vacated, right? And very important, it cannot be rented out to another. There's no subletting possible here, right? It is only one-time disposable residence, that is the body. We use it and it has to be basically handed back to Agni, right? So it is a temporary residence or a temporary office, an apartment or a cabinet that we are using, right? So then we studied the second layer called Sukshma Shareeram, which is a group of instruments, and we mentioned 17 such instruments. And each one of them was defined 5 sense organs of knowledge, Jnanendriyam, 5 sense organs of action, backed by the Pancha Pranas, which are the sources of energy. Jnanendriyani, Karmendriyani, Prana, and Mana, Buddhi, right? So the mind referring to the thinking faculty and Buddhi referring to the deciding or decisive faculty. So the order is you first think, then you decide. If you continuously, keep on thinking without deciding, that is also useless. And going on deciding without thinking of pros and cons also is not correct, right? So Manaha and Buddhi along with the other 15. So that is 17 instruments. Bhoga Ayatanam is Shareeram. Bhoga Sadhanam basically. So Bhoga Ayatanam is the abode, that is the Shareeram, and Bhoga Sadhanam, the instruments, right, is Sukshma Shareeram. Then we came to the crucial part, which is Kaarana Shareeram. We have just entered into that. So we saw Anirvachya, Anadi, Avidya Rupam, Shareeradvayasya Kaarana Matram, Satswarupa Ajnanam, Nirvikalpaka Rupam, Yadasti, Tat Kaarana Shareeram. Now, each of these we are going to understand what it means because it's very, very important. Okay, so Kaarana Shareeram is one of the most abstract concepts of Vedanta, next only to Atma, right? So both of them are abstract concepts, and for a beginner, it's not that easy to absorb in the first go, but with repeated Shravanam, you will be able to understand that. So let us try and absorb as much as possible. And if there are some vague concepts, we'll see if we can keep it aside and then come back to it later on, right? So Kaarana Shareeram is now being defined with 4 descriptions or 4 features. So Yad Asti, Tat Kaarana Shareeram. That's towards the end of this sentence. Yad Asti, Tat Kaarana Shareeram. So we're going to define that, right? Whichever body exists with these 4 features. So the 4 features are going to be covered, right? So we'll be rearranging the 4 features a little bit. Shareeradvayasya Kaarana Matram will come first, then Nirvikalpaka Rupam, then Satswarupa Ajnana, then Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam. So first we will take Shareeradvayasya Kaarana Matram, right? So what does it mean? What the author wants to say here is when anything originates, we know that it originates from a cause. A mango tree originates in the form of a mango sprout, and the sprout comes out of what? A seed, right? So a mango sprout comes from the mango seed, and from a mango seed, only mango sprout can come. You cannot have a coconut tree coming out of it, right? So we have to have a particular cause for an effect to happen, right? So the entire mango sprout, mango tree is completely hidden in that mango seed in potential form, right? Or latent form, unmanifest form. So the whole tree is there in the mango seed. That means the trunk is there, the branches are there, the leaves, the fruits, everything is there. And the type of mango, right? Whether it's going to be extraordinarily tasty or whether it's going to be juicy, all of them are encoded in the seed. So if you break the seed, can you see all this? No, right? So it is basically in potential form. So in Chandogya Upanishad, in fact, the Guru asked the disciple, right? He says, Nyagrodha Palamata. Basically, he says, bring this particular seed of the banyan tree. Bhinditi bhinna bhagava iti. Kimatra pashyasi iti. Na kinchana bhagava iti. Basically, the Guru asked the student, why don't you tell me what can you see in the seed, right? In the banyan tree seed. And he says, nothing. The Shishya says, I don't see anything except a dot of a pulp. Then the Guru says, in that everything is encoded. Therefore, nothing basically comes out of nothing. So everything comes out of something, right? And in which everything is encoded in a potential form. Take the case of human beings, right? So that is the genes. Everything is encoded in genes, right? So the genetics becomes very, very important, right? So that potential form in Sanskritam is called Karanam, and Karanam has a very important significance in the Vedantic parlance also, right? So Karya in potential form is called Karanam, and without Karanam, Karyam cannot come, right? So that is why modern science also says matter can never be destroyed. So matter can never be created. And before the Big Bang, the whole universe did exist in some other form, right? Whatever name you give to it, right? So once the general law is understood that Karyam comes out of Karanam, right? So Karyam was in the form of Karanam in unmanifest form. Then the Shastra says Sthula Shareeram and Sukshma Shareeram are created entities. During the Srishti, it was created, right? And because they are created during Srishti, that is the origin of cosmos, right? Since both of them are created during the origin of the world, both of them will dissolve, right? At the time of Pralayam. So whatever has a date of manufacture will have a date of expiry also. So Sthula, Sukshma, Shareerani, both of them have a manufacturing date. And of course, Sukshma Shareeram, difference is that it will expire at the time of Pralayam, right? So at that time, what will happen? It will go into a dormant, unmanifest form. That unmanifest form of Sthula, Sukshma Shareeram at the time of Pralayam is called Kaarana Shareeram. Therefore, all of us, right? It means all our physical bodies, all our subtle bodies did exist very much before Srishti. Not in Sthula Shareeram form, not in Sukshma Shareeram form, but it was an encoded form, and that is called Kaarana Shareeram. And how many Kaarana Shareerams would have been there? As many Sthula Shareerams and Sukshma Shareerams are there. Now, you must remember that every mosquito that is biting us, or every ant that is going after a small sugar, or every plant, right? Every living being has got a Sthula and Sukshma Shareeram. All of them existed in the form of Kaarana Shareeram. And throughout the Pralayam, they will exist like this, which is the Maha pregnancy of God, right? Ishvara, Maya. So we'll see more about it during creation. Out of the Kaarana Shareeram, the Sukshma Shareeram will come, which will last for one whole Srishti, right? The Sthula Shareeram, right, which will comes for every birth, basically. So what is the corollary from this? Now, every human being today must have been some other kind of living being at some point in time. So that if there were infinite number of Sthula, Sukshma, Kaarana, Shareeram, the three set, the same infinite number keep manifesting in different forms, right? This has been going on for Anadi Kala, for very many years and years, decades, and the Kala, whenever the time, even before that, right? It was, even when time and space got dissolved, it was there in Kaarana Shareeram form, right? So, the Kaarana Shareeram is therefore defined as the seed of the Sthula Sukshma Shareeram, and that is said here. So, Shareera Dvayasya Kaarana Matram. Sthula Sukshma Shareera Dvayasya Karanam Matram seed form. So, that is called Kaarana Shareeram, right? And Sthula Shareeram, we can understand what it is. Sukshma Shareeram as Jnanendriyam and Karmendriyam, we can feel the prana and the power, right, to move our hands, legs, etc., taste, all of that we know, we discern them. How about the Kaarana Shareeram? Do we have some way of discerning this, any model, right? So only at the time of Pralayam it is available. If we want to have a rough idea, Shastra gives an experience of ours. And what is that experience? That is the deep sleep state, right? So, if you see in deep sleep, Sthula Shareeram is not functional, right? Others will see your body, but you are not aware of your body, right, in deep sleep. And what about Jnanendriyani, Karmendriyani, the Sukshma Shareeram part? None of those we are aware of, right? Even though the prana is functioning, because prana is involuntary, right? Everything else is resolved. Even though the prana functions, right? In the deep sleep state, there is, what is it that you can discern, right? That experience is Kaarana Shareera Anubhava, right? So what is the experience that you get in Kaarana Shareera, right? We will see that, right? very little in deep sleep state, right? And when you wake up, you're able to feel your physical body and subtle body. Therefore, deep sleep state is given as a model or as an example for the experience of Kaarana Shareeram. But actual Kaarana Shareeram is in Pralaya Avasthaa only, right? So, very important. And then, next description is Nirvikalpaka Rupam. In any seed, the features are in dormant form. And then, when they are in dormant form, you cannot clearly see, right? Like in the fetus of the baby, all the features are encoded, but you cannot see the sense organs or the hands, legs, etc. Only when they grow, you are able to see, right? So, undifferentiated means undistinguishable, right? The undifferentiated does not mean it is not there. It is there in potential form, right? As even the baby grows, all the features will come. Similarly, Sthula Sukshma Shareeram gradually emerges out of Kaarana Shareeram. So, in Kaarana Shareeram, they are there, but cannot be differentiated. So, Vikalpa means differentiation or differences. Savikalpa means with differences. Nirvikalpa is without visible differences, right? So, we should not say without differences. It is without visible differences, right? So, the Karyam is always Savikalpakam, Karanam is Nirvikalpakam. So, Sukshma Shareeram is Savikalpam, Kaarana Shareeram is Nirvikalpam. So, that is why during sleep, all people are the same. Their character, their behavior, their nature during sleep, all of them are the same, right? So, only when the person wakes up, you know the difference between the people. One is short-tempered, one is very peaceful, one is calm, etc., right? So, this is Nirvikalpaka Rupam, which is undifferentiated form. Then the third feature is Sat Swarupa Ajnanam. So the Kaarana Shareeram is equated in the Shastra to Ajnanam. So Ajnanam means ignorance. Ignorance of what? Sat Swarupa. Sat Swarupa means the real nature of everyone, which is Atma. So if Sat Swarupa means Atma, the spiritual essence of everyone, then Ajnanam means ignorance of the Sat Swarupam, which is Atma. Atma Ajnanam is basically referred to as self-ignorance or spiritual ignorance. When will you know about Atma? Only when you learn from the scriptures or the Shastra, right? Until then, you have self-ignorance. So, thus, Kaarana Shareeram is equated to spiritual ignorance in the scriptures, right? There is a reason. Why is it? According to the scriptures, as long as an individual is spiritually ignorant, right? As long as there is this ignorance, the Kaarana Shareeram will continue to exist. And so long as self-ignorance is there, Kaarana Shareeram is also there. And what is the indication? Because the continuity of Kaarana Shareeram is indicated by repeated births and deaths. Because Kaarana Shareeram is the cause for the reappearance of Sthula Sukshma Shareeram. And if the Sthula Shareeram dies, as long as Kaarana Shareeram is there, again another body will originate. Like cutting the trunk of the tree and again the tree comes up, right? So, Kaarana Shareeram is literally the root of every living being, and the living being may die. But again the rebirth will take place. And even when Trayam takes place, as long as self-ignorance is there, there will be Kaarana Shareeram. And that means even during Pralayam, the individual continues in Nirvikalpaka Rupam. So only when the next Srishti comes, the individual again is reborn with a fresh Sukshma Shareeram and another Sthula Shareeram. So thus self-ignorance and Kaarana Shareeram are equivalent. This will take some time to sink in and understand, because this is one of the most fundamental, at the same time abstract concepts of Advaita Vedanta. And this is what will help us understand Videha Mukti, etc. So if you're not able to get it, fine. Just understand that self-ignorance and Kaarana Shareeram are equivalent. So that means Kaarana Shareeram will end only when the self-ignorance ceases to exist. When will that happen? Only when you get self-knowledge, right? So Shastra says when a living being becomes spiritually enlightened, and only when a living being is spiritually enlightened, for which we require a human birth, animals cannot attend Tattvabodha class. Mosquitoes, plants, none of them. Only a human birth will help you, right? So the human birth is the only chance for spiritual enlightenment and the end of this self-ignorance. So during Avanyavata Sankalpam, now some of you may be able to recollect and connect, so I thought I should speak about it. There is this, Sankalpa where they say, Anadi avidya vasanaya pashu pakshi mrigadi yonishu anekada. Then punah janitva, right? I have taken bird janma, I have taken animal janma, plant janma, not one time, many times, right? Another time maybe buffalo, cow, etc. Right? Anekada janitva kenapi punya karma visheshena. Because of some punyam done at some time, I have got idanim tana manushye. Even human birth is not enough. A human birth where self-knowledge is available for systematic study, Guru Shishya Parampara Rupena, it has to be preserved, and you should get the access to the teacher, access to the teaching only then, right? Kenapi punya karma visheshena idanim tana manushye dvija janma vishesham. Dvija janma vishesham means a birth in which I have a value for the scriptures, right? And see, those days everybody used to have the Upanayanam because the Upanayanam was a prerequisite for learning Shastra, right? So therefore, Dvija means twice born, which is almost all Hindus went through the Upanayana ceremony if they were wanting to have the qualification to further study the scriptures, right? So Dvija Janma refers to that. So Dvija Janma means those who have faith in the scriptural instruction and raising family, earning money, all of that is all incidental. Gradually, we have to prepare for the spiritual knowledge. So a lifestyle which is designed for spiritual knowledge is Vedic lifestyle. And I should come to Manushya Janma, and then I should come to Vaidika Parampara. I should be able to respect Veda. I should respect Karma Yoga. I should respect Ishvara Aradhana. Then only I can value Gita class, Tattvabodha class, etc. So much of punyam is required to go through Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, right? Wherein we talk about our real nature, and then among many seekers, some of them claim I have understood, and all those jnaninaha, right? Yet sakshat kar, in fact in Dakshinamurti Stotram we say that sakshat karanat bhavenna punaravrittir bhavam bodhinau, right? So, by gaining the self-knowledge, one gets out of this mortality. Asatoma sat gamaya, tamasoma jyotir gamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. So, that jiva becomes immortal, right? And one with Ishvara. Therefore, the scriptures say, when self-knowledge comes, the self-ignorance ends. And end of self-ignorance is end of Kaarana Shareeram. And end of Kaarana Shareeram is end of the cycles of birth and death. So we have to now connect back. Why all this we said? Because self-ignorance and Kaarana Shareeram can now be equated, right? So Satswarupa Ajnanam is the third description of Kaarana Shareeram. Then we have another heavy description which is Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam, right? Since it is Kaarana Shareeram, it is said to be a cause. Kaaranam means cause and product is Karyam. So, Karyam is always a product and product has always got a beginning, right? Adiman. Adiman means it has a beginning. Kaarana Shareeram being Kaarana, it is not Karyam. So, since it is a cause and not an effect, right? You cannot talk about a beginning. So, it is Anadi. So the moment you talk about beginning for Kaarana Shareeram, you'll have a problem, right? It will not be Kaarana Shareeram. So it will become a Karyam because it will become an effect. So Kaarana Shareeram is Anadi, Anadi meaning without a beginning. And For ignorance, another word is avidya. Therefore, Kaarana Shareeram is self-ignorance, which is ajnanam or avidya, and it is beginningless, right? So, anadi avidya rupa, that is Kaarana Shareeram, right? And it is also called Mula Vidya or beginningless self-ignorance. And by using the word avidya, the scripture conveys a particular message. Avidya, that which can be destroyed only by vidya. Vidya matra nashya avidya. So it is through vidya only that it can be destroyed. So it can be destroyed by self-knowledge. It does not have a natural death, right? So for the physical body, I don't have to work for the destruction. It will naturally happen. Everything in the creation, whether it is sun, moon, right, they all have its own natural process of gradually dying, right? A few million years, maybe some of them. But self-ignorance will not die naturally. It has to go only with self-knowledge, right? Very important. And for that self-knowledge to be assimilated, we know we have to go through karma yoga, upasana yoga, shavanam, mananam, nididhyasanam, shamadhi, shatka, sampati. We saw sadhana chatushtayam, etc., which is the qualification, right? So that our mind gets calmer and subtler in order to be able to absorb this teaching, right? So only by gaining vidya, this self-ignorance will go, right? And by gaining knowledge, removing the anadi avidya and karana shareeram, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle ends. Therefore, avidya means it is destroyed by knowledge. And what knowledge? It is self-knowledge. So, anadi avidya rupam is the definition of karana shareeram. Now, one word, the last one, which is anirvachyam, right? So, anirvachyam means it cannot be categorically defined. Nirvachanam means definition. So, categorization, right, is not possible. So, anirvachyam means that which cannot be categorically defined as what? Very important. It can neither be defined as existent or non-existent. The Karana Shareeram. Very difficult to say. We'll be able to experience ignorance, right? What is the proof? For instance, if you're learning a language, right? Say Chinese language or Spanish or Japanese, right? So you say, suppose I ask you and you don't know Chinese, you say, I don't know Chinese. That means you're ignorant of Chinese. That means you are aware that you are ignorant of Chinese. So you have Chinese ignorance. That I have Chinese ignorance or you have Chinese ignorance, is it known to you or not? Right? You're very much aware of it, right? So that means you know that you have Chinese ignorance. And if I ask whether you know physics or maths, right? And you will say, and wherever, so you know your ignorance, you also know where you have knowledge, right? When teaching is going on, the student knows he is ignorant of the subject and the teacher knows he is knowledgeable of the subject. So we know our knowledge, we know our ignorance. That means ignorance we are aware of. We all experience ignorance. We are aware of ignorance. But when you ask the question, does the ignorance come under existent category or non-existent? You will have a difficulty. To understand this, our scriptures give an example, right? This is an example always given for ignorance, right? So whenever you don't know something, suppose in the family something is happening and all the members know that but they have not informed, right? So we use an expression, I am always kept in the dark, right? We use that expression. Therefore, for the example of ignorance, the example used in this world in general and by Shastra in particular is darkness. Ajnana timirandasya, we say in Guru Stotram, right? So ignorance and darkness are compared. Darkness is something we experience, correct? Darkness is something we experience. And to find out what should you do, you have to use your eyes to see. When you use your eyes, you are experiencing darkness. But to study the darkness, you take the light. So the moment you switch on the light, the darkness is gone. Now tell me, where did the darkness go? So you cannot say the darkness went here or under the cot or went away to the next room, right? You can say it is destroyed, but if darkness is destroyed, remnants must be available somewhere, some rubble, debris. No, you don't. Therefore, it looks like darkness is something which is non-existent because you're not able to clearly prove it as a positive substance, right? It looks like a non-existent entity. Absence of light seems to be darkness. It looks like a non-existent entity, right? Then can you say darkness is non-existent? That is also difficult. You can't say that because you experienced it. You experienced darkness, right? So you can't say that also, right? So darkness is something I experienced clearly. Not only I experience darkness, in the darkness, the things are covered too. So darkness has enveloped all the objects and therefore darkness is experienced. Therefore, it appears to be an existent entity. But if you take it as an existent entity, you are not able to see. So what is the substance called darkness? On inquiry, it disappears into nothingness. Therefore, Shastra says, you cannot say darkness is non-existent because you experience. You cannot say darkness is existent because on inquiry it disappears into nothingness. So darkness is existent or non-existent. If you ask the question, Shastra says anirvachyam. So the meaning of anirvachyam, you have to meditate quite a bit on this. The meaning of anirvachyam is that which is experienced, but on inquiry, you cannot determine that it is existent or non-existent. It is indeterminate. That which is experienceable, but on inquiry, to determine whether it is existent or non-existent, you will not be able to determine. So it is an indeterminate experienceable entity. So Vedanta uses a technical word for this, right? Which is anirvachyam. And another very commonly used word for this is mithya or asatyam. So many words are used, but all these are synonyms for Kaarana Shareeram. So Kaarana Shareeram is a mithya entity which is of the nature of self-ignorance, which is the cause of Sukshma Shareeram and Sthula Shareeram, and which has got everything in undifferentiated form, right? This is Kaarana Shareeram. And when do we experience this Kaarana Shareeram? During sleep, we experience our Kaarana Shareeram. It appears to be total blankness, but in sleep, the blankness is not nothingness, but everything in potential form. So basically, this is the meaning of Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam Shareeradvayasya Karanamatra Satswarupa Ajnana Nirvikalpaka Rupam Yadasti Tat Karana Shareeram. So this is the definition of Kaarana Shareeram. Now the next three topics, right, are Avasthaa Trayam, the three states of experience, right? So we'll enter into that. Before that, a quick summary table for you, which you can take a look at it afterwards, of Sthula Shareeram, Sukshma Shareeram and Kaarana Shareeram put together in one slide. Avasthaa Trayam.
Avasthatrayam kim
Jagrat Swapna Sushutyavasthaah.
Jagrat Swapna Sushuptyavasthaah
Jagradavasthaka.
Jagradavasthaka
Shrotradi Jnanendriyaihi.
Shrotradi Jnanendriyaihi
Shabdadi Vishayaischa Jnayate.
Shabdadi Vishayaischa Jnayate
Iti yat sa Jagradavastha.
Iti yat sa Jagratavastha
Sthula Shareerabhimanyatma Vishva ityuchyate.
Sthula Shareerabhimanya Atma Vishwa Ityuchyate.
So, Avasthaa Trayam Kim, right? So, in the definition of Atma, they have been enumerated, right? I just brought that particular definition up so that you will be able to relate. So we completed Stula, Sukshma, Kaarana, Shareeram, Vyatiriktaha. Now we are seeing Avasthaa, Traya, Sakshi. Okay. So in the definition of Atma, we saw that Stula, Sukshma, Kaarana, Shareeram, Vyatiriktaha, Panchakoshatitaha, San, Avasthaa, Traya, Sakshi. They were all listed. And now we are going to enter the Avasthaa, Traya, Sakshi. So you should take it as the Shishya is asking Avasthaa, Trayam Kim. Then the Guru is answering, right? So what are the three states of experience every living being, especially every human being, goes through every single day, right? Trayam means group of three. So first the teacher enumerates them. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushuptihi, right? Jagrat means waking state. Swapna means dream state. Sushupti means deep sleep state, right? So the word deep is used to indicate, very important, to indicate that there are no dreams here, okay? I guess it's called the REM sleep. So the adjective deep sleep means dreamless sleep. So dreamless sleep is called Swapnaha, and that is called Sushupti. Basically dreamful sleep is called Swapnavastha. Dreamless sleep is called Sushupti Avastha. So in this form, the three states are there. Now the student is asking for the definition of each one. Right? So Jagrada Avastha Ka, that's the first question. Shrotra Adi Jnana Indriyaihi Shabda Adi Vishayaihi Cha Nyayate Iti Yat Sa Jagrad Avastha. So the question basically, so the Shishya is asking this question and the teacher is answering this. It is a state, basically a waking state is a state where all the sense organs are operational. Because in dream and deep sleep state, our sense organs do not function. Our eyes are closed, our ears are open, but they're all non-functional, right? And nose is open, except for, of course, the breathing which happens, nothing else happens, right? So all the sense organs which belong to the Sukshma Shareeram and Stula Shareeram are fully operational in the waking state, right? So Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, all of them, Chakshuhu, Indriyam, all, whatever we saw, they're all active in Jagrata Avastha. So waking state, if you have to use the Indriyam, then you have to associate with the physical body. Without the physical body, I told you the golakams will not be available. Without the golakams, that is the physical location, the Indriyams will not be able to function. So during waking state, we are operating the physical body, and through the physical body, we are operating the sense organs. Through the sense organs, we are contacting the external gross world. So Sthula Shareeram, Golakam, Indriyam, and the external universe all are available in waking state. So the physical body, the physical location, the sense organs, everything, right? So I contact the world. Whereas the moment I go into dream, I've withdrawn from the physical body. In fact, I'm not even aware that I have a physical body. And that is why during sleep, they all just turn over, right? And sometimes in the morning, you see that you are sleeping in the opposite side. You don't know what you are doing, right? So you're not aware of the physical body. So I've withdrawn from the body, and if golakams are not available for the Indriyams, then the Indriyams are not functioning for me. Therefore, the external world is not available for me. So this condition of withdrawal from the body, that is for sleep, the state in which the body is available, I have not withdrawn, that is Jagrata Avastha, where the gross world is available, right? So that is the Jagrata Avastha, where all the Karmendriyani, Jnanendriyani, the physical body, everything is functioning fully, right? So with the help of both, like as Swamiji puts it, he says Sukshma Shareeram is software and Stula Shareeram is hardware. So Stula, Sukshma Shareeram, Shabdadi Vishayaha, everything we can hear, external world of objects and all the five gunas, right? Shabda, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, everything we are able to discern in the Jagrata Avastha. So the entire 5 segments of the world, we are able to sense through the sense organs in the Jagrata Avastha. So, Nyayanti, they are contacted or known, experienced or sensed, and that is why they are called sense organs. And yet, whatever is that state, that particular state is called Jagrata Avastha. And during the Jagrata Avastha, the individual must be operating through the physical body and subtle body. Without physical body, you cannot contact the physical universe. Very important reason. That is why in a dead body, it is not possible at all. So you need the Sukshma Shareeram and the Sthula Shareeram to remain in Jagrata Avastha, right? So in the case of death, right? Basically, the Sukshma Shareeram is there, but the Sukshma Shareeram has left as Pretam, has left the Sthula Shareeram. So even though I exist, right, the moment the physical body goes, I cannot contact the physical universe, right? Very important. So, Sthula Sharira Abhimani Atma Vishwa iti Uchyate. So, therefore, the individual who functions through the physical body is given a special name, Vakar. Basically, is called the Vakar. So, Sthula Sukshma Abhimani is a Abhimani, means he is identified, and such a living being called the Vakar, he is called Vishwa. Vishwa iti Uchyate, right? And he is called Vishwa, he is endowed with all the Shareerams, Sthula Sukshma Shareeram, because the moment I go to dream, the Sthula Shareeram is removed. And Sthula Shareeram is as though set aside, right? And I am endowed only with the Sukshma Shareeram. In the waking state, all the 3 bodies are used. So Vishwa means complete, complete means all the 3 Shareerams. So the one who sees is called Vishwa, right? So what is Swapnavastha? Swapnavastha keti chet.
Swapnavastha keti chet.
Jagravasthayam yadrishtam yadshrutam.
Jagradavasthayam yadrishtam yachritam.
Tajjanita vasanaya nidra samaye.
Sajjanita vasanaya nidra samaye.
Yah prapancha pratiyate.
Yah prapancha pratiyate.
Sa swapnavastha.
Sa swapnavastha.
Sukshma sharirabhimanyatma taijasa ityuchyate.
Sukshma sharirabhimanyatma taijasa ityuchyate.
So, swapnavastha ka. Keti is there, you have to split it as ka and iti. So, after swapnavastha ka, there's a question mark, and you have to assume Shishya is asking. So, in Sanskrit, ka, right, what is the dream state? Iti chet. Suppose such a question is raised, right, what is the answer, right? So, in the waking state, not only we are experiencing the world, very important, every experience is leaving an impression in the mind. So, the mind not only serves as a perceiving medium, through the senses, the mind serves as a recording medium also. Just as you, like we are recording this webinar, etc., right? Same way, the whole thing is getting recorded and every experience is leaving an impression, right? So, the mind not only serves as a perceiving medium, through the senses, the mind also serves as a recording medium, right? So, the mind, the recorder, is supposed to record everything, right? So, you have basically, unless you listen carefully, what happens is some of them don't even get recorded in the mind, because to register, the mind has to be behind it, right? So you need to be attentive for the mind to register. So the mind can record Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, right? All of them. It has, and every recording medium has a limited capacity, right? But mind is supposed to have so much capacity that it can record the experiences of today, yesterday, right? Years together, right? And previous janmas. So between the previous birth and this birth, you must remember, very important point, only one body has been displaced. What is that? That is the Sthula Shareeram. Our mind continues to be the same. Therefore, the mind has the recordings of the past janmas also. And these recordings are called Vasanani. So, experience is called Anubhava. The recordings are called Vasanani or Samskaraha. So, throughout the waking state, we are gathering deposits of Vasana. Some Vasanas are lighter and some of them are very deep impact. Some very rare bad experience also we have, which are deeply registered in the mind. And once we go to the dream state, we are no more operating the physical body. We are withdrawn from the physical body. That is why we are not aware of the physical body in dream. The body becomes non-functional. And once the body becomes non-functional, the sense organs are also non-functional, because the sense organs can function only through the physical golakani. And once they have become non-functional, the sense organs cannot reach the external world. So the body is resolved, as it were, right? Almost. So sense organs are also resolved, as it were. So the external world is also as though resolved for me. Other people may experience, right, who are awake. But for me, as far as I am concerned, it is literally non-functional. So now the mind has a choice. If the mind has become non-functional, then we can go to the state of deep sleep state. But often it doesn't happen. Because, as I said, I don't know whether I mentioned in this class, in the 6 to 7 hours of sleep that we hardly have deep sleep for about 1.5 hours, right? So the rest of the time we may not be in deep sleep state because the mind has got a lot of things inside. So all these vasananis which are stored inside, they get an opportunity to get activated. And whether the vasanani gets activated or not depends, according to the scriptures, on the law of karma. So our punya karma and papa karma, both which we will study later at the end of Tattvabodha, our bad and good karmas do have an impact on the vasana activation also. And sometimes what happens, I don't even go into this, I go into deep sleep state. So in the mind, there are so many recordings. There are wonderful ones, there are bad ones, some are inaccessible, some of them are deep within, right? So many vasanas are there. Some of them get activated. Sometimes you get extremely good vasanas coming up, like you might be seeing the Komala Seva or the Abhishekam in front of Venkatachalapati, right? Sometimes it can be a very, very bad dream, or it can even be nightmares. And Shastra says that it is the law of karma that operates and decides which vasana has to get activated. So the vasana activated becomes swapna. So during waking state, the vasanani are inactive, and right, during swapna avastha, the vasananis become the internal world called swapna prapancha. And even though they are projections of the mind, once I enter the dream, I do not know that they are mental projections. I do not know that it is my own mental projection. I see the dream world as though it is a waking state. For a dreamer, a dream is not a dream in dream. For him, for the dreamer, it is Jagrata Avastha. There, not only he has a universe, it is the mental universe. It may not be physical, right? But he has got a physical body which is separate in dream state. He has, he has projected a body. He has projected sense organs. He has projected the deep dream world, all out of vasanani, right? He has everything. Maybe he doesn't hear in dreams, so he has a hearing aid also, glasses, everything. So, and I also experience a prapancha. Sometimes I have a nightmarish dream also, right? So after waking up, I may say, oh, it is nothing. Why did I get scared? Why did I sweat, etc., right? But I have an internal subjective universe generated within my own mind, right? Such a state is called swapnavastha, and such a universe is called swapna prapancha. Therefore, swapna prapancha is called vasanamaya prapancha. So Jagrad Avasthayam, right? Not only the waking state of the current Janma, you have to include all the past Janmas, right? Of the Jagrad Avastha of everything, right? Yat Drishtam, Yat Shrutam. Whatever I see, whatever is seen by me in the waking state, heard by me in the waking state, sometimes certain wounding words, right, which get deeply registered, they get replayed in dream. Repeatedly, I hear the same words. The person may have used the word only once, but if the hurt is so much, it all comes back gushing in the memory, right? So much it comes. It depends on how deeply hurt and how much you have nurtured the deep hurt also matters, right? So yad drishtam, yad shrutam, tat janita vasanaya, anubhava janya vasana. So that is the rule. Every experience generates vasana, and every vasana generates memory or dream. And so when the vasana is activated, it is called memory in the waking state. And when it is happening in the swapna avastha, it is swapna. Right? So tajjanita vasanaya nidra samaye, at the time of sleep, that is partial sleep. Yak prapanchaha, whatever universe is experienced, and if you see certain dreams, you must have experienced either in current janma, or Shastra says they must have been registered in the past janma, and that is why the Prashna Upanishad says drishtam cha adrishtam cha. Some dreams are seen in the based on our experiences in the current janma, and adrishtam cha, meaning certain experiences are based on the waking state, not of the current janma, but of the purva janma. Yak prapanchaha pratiyate. Now, some people talk of dream of the future. No, that is not in Shastra. That is not referred here, right? That is an extraordinary case, and some people have that kind of a siddhi. They see something, right? But otherwise, everything else that you see in dream is something that is registered earlier, either in this janma or the previous janma, right? So the future you cannot experience the future in dream. That is some other power, and not to confuse with this at all. Right? Some yogis have deliberately developed this power through meditation also. So they are able to, see future, etc. Right? Some of them have extraordinary powers, but that's not what we're discussing here. The dream is based on the past. Yak prapancha pratiyate sa swapnavastha. Such a state is called dream, and that individual who experiences the dream is called a dreamer. And during the dream, which Shareeram is prominent, very important, the vasananis are registered in the mind. Therefore, to the Sukshma Shareeram, and therefore during dream, Sukshma Shareeram is prominently operational. Therefore, Sukshma Shareera Abhimani Atma Taijasa iti uchyate. So therefore the dreamer is called Sukshma Shareera Abhimani. Abhimani meaning predominantly functioning through, identified with subtle body. Taijasa iti uchyate. Why is he called Taijasa? Because in the waking state, when we experience the external world, we use a different light for experience. During daytime, we use sunlight. Nighttime, we have electric light, right, or moonlight. And we are able to use that, we are able to switch on the light first, otherwise we can't see anything, right? So we have all those in the Jagrata Avastha. But for the dream state, we have got our own internal light for dream perception and dream transaction. Since we are using the internal light, right, that is itself a huge discussion in Swayanjyoti Brahmana of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, right? So the light with which we do the internal transaction, right? So Yajnavalkya actually tells Janaka there that it is Atma Jyotihi, and the inner light of transaction, right? Because it is light, the dreamer is called Taijasa. The one who enters the dream, his own light is used without depending on the external light, right? Like the worker in the coal mine, right? He has this light which throws up like that. You can imagine, this is the inner light. So the dreamer is called Tejomaya Antakarana Vritti Rupatva Taijasa iti uchyate. Basically, he is able to throw light on the Antakarana Vritti, that is the mental thoughts or the mental dream. So this is the name of the dream. Then what is the next Tata, Bhagini, you will repeat after me, please.
Tata sushuptyavastha.
Tata sushupti avastha.
Tata sushuptyavastha ka. Sorry.
Aham kimapi na janami.
Aham kimapi na janami.
Sukhena maya nidranubhuyata iti.
Sukhena maya nidranubhuyata iti.
Sushuptyavastha.
Sushuptyavastha.
Kaarana shareerabhimanyatma prajna ityuchyate.
Kaarana shareerabhimanyatma prajna ityuchyate.
So, atas sushuptyavastha ka. So, in deep sleep state, right? Here he says it's a state where one doesn't experience the external world. He doesn't experience the internal world. No projected world. No bhautika prapancha. No internal world. Manasa prapancha also. No worldly transactions. No stress. No strain. Total relaxation. And I forget my problems. And very important. And the minute I wake up, everything is reminded, right? So I lose my physical individuality, mental individuality, any identification. So I have only twofold experience. One is anandaha, total relaxation, and therefore happiness. And everybody enjoys the deep sleep state. Nobody complains, right? And they're very happy about the sleep. So happiness is one experience. The second experience is total ignorance of everything. I'm ignorant of the external world, and in fact, whatever knowledge I have during waking, they also get resolved. So in deep sleep state, total ignorance of the world. And the Upanishad says, Tatra pita apita bhavati, mata amata bhavati, loka aloka, deva adeva, everything, right? When he wakes up, the fatherhood also will wake up, the motherhood will wake up, right? So no sannyasis, no scholar, musician, whoever it is, right? So in deep sleep state, it is completely ignorance and ananda, right? That is said here. Aham kimapi na janami. I don't know anything. Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. Sukhena means happily. Deep sleep state is experienced by me, and he doesn't claim that at the time of sleep. Very important. He claims only after waking up, right? So he has to claim this only in the waking state. Saying Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate, right? So I experience this ignorance and deep ananda, right? So sleep is experienced by me. So that is Sushupti Avastha or deep sleep state. So Sushupti means a particular sleep in which the dreams are absent, and dreamless sleep alone is called Sushupti. And during Sushupti, which Shareeram is prominent, we just saw, right? Even if a mosquito bites, we don't know in deep sleep state, right? Only when we get up, we know. There's no thinking, there are no decisions, there's nothing is functioning, right? So it is Kaarana Shareeram, which is prominent in deep sleep state. Therefore, the definition of sleep is given. Kaarana Shareera Abhimani Atma Prajnaha iti uchyate. So the conscious individual who is not conscious of anything of the world except two things. He's conscious of ignorance and happiness. I'm conscious of these two without being conscious of the fact that I'm conscious of these two. Because at the time of sleep, he's not conscious of these two. Only when he wakes up, he says, oh, I had total experience. I had a beautiful experience of ignorance and happiness. He says, I experienced this twofold ignorance and happiness only after he gets up. I am aware of the fact that I was aware of nothing, and awareness is taking place, right? So I come to know of it afterwards. So with this, the three avasthas are over. So Shareera Trayam and Avastha Trayam, the 6 anatmas we have seen. And the final topic is going to be Panchakosha in this out of the 11, 5 layers of personality, which we will do in the next class. But just so that you remember this is an absolutely important slide. This word Vishwa Taijasa Prajna and the association with Sthula Shareeram, Sukshma Shareeram and Kaarana Shareeram is very, very important. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Any questions? Okay. Darkness is absence of light, and when light is extinguished, darkness engulfs. So darkness and light are complementary. Shadow appears when light is blocked. Can we compare light to Sukshma Sharira, darkness as Kaarana Sharira and shadow as Sthula? No. No. Let's just stick to the Shastra example, right? And we will just leave it at that. Let us not overanalyze this because we will get confused. Okay? Rajiv Mahodaya. Okay. Now, Krishna Prasad ji, please go ahead.
Namaste, ma'am. Couple of questions in the definition of Kaarana Shareeram as Anirvachya Vidya. So, as a student, I'm just learning, I'm understanding. I can understand that the definition can be Anirvachya and Avidya. Whereas as a teacher or somebody who is like you, who have learned under the Guru and meditated on this, can this be called as Nirvachya Vidya because you meditated upon, understood the definition? Can we say that?
You can only understand the definition. You cannot say that the Kaarana Shareeram is Nirvachya. No. Only the definition part you can understand better. There is more and more clarity, right? But what exactly is Kaarana Shareeram, existent, non-existent, that part is always Mithya. You will be able to get clarity on the definition itself as you start meditating. In fact, we do a lot of meditation by discerning, saying neti, neti, not this, not this, not that. We only keep on negating and then we arrive at the Atma itself. So Kaarana Shareeram is Anirvachyam only.
Okay, okay. So another related question is again related to Kaarana Shareeram. We say it is Avidya Rupam, and also we say it's Anandamaya Kosha, and also Nirvikalpa. Whereas Ananda is related to Satchidananda and Nirvikalpa also related to Atma and Brahman. How is this overlap? How do I understand this overlap of Ananda and Nirvikalpa?
Yeah, it is. I don't want to get into detail now because I don't want to confuse the others. There is significant difference between Anandamaya Kosha and Ananda Atma. So in the Panchakosha, when we will see that there is an Anandamaya Kosha. Many students get confused between Anandamaya Kosha and the real Ananda, which is Atmananda. And that clarity is got once you get into Taittiriya Upanishad and understand the details, because there a lot of details are there around this, but a little bit we will see in Panchakosha. So what we are referring as Anandamaya Kosha and Ananda Atma are different. So we'll see that in the Panchakosha definition.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vasudevji.
My two questions. Relaxation before going to sleep, will that help to get better Sushupti state? I mean, more Sushupti state in sleep?
You can try, but the problem is what causes swapna, right? This swapna is caused by not just the vasanas of the experiences you have had in this janma or yesterday, day before yesterday. It is vasanas of even previous janmas. And as I said, the law of karma is operating there as to which vasanas have to be manifested that particular night and in that dream, etc. But in general, yes, when you relax, you are not thinking about anything before going to bed. But the dream is a result of so many deep vasanas. So you really can't, control that part.
Yeah, okay. The other question is, when vasanas get activated, they reflect in memory. That's what.
Basically, the experiences are registered in memory during our Jagrata Avastha, and subsequently it gets committed to this. It is called, the term used is vasanas when we refer to the memories which are registered over multiple janmas, right? So they are connected, and all of them, the adhishtanam is the mind only. And because it is the mind, it continues from Sukshma Shareera to through the Sukshma Shareera to the next Shareeram also.
Yeah.
Sushila ji.
I'm Venkataraman, her husband speaking.
Okay.
We were both listening together. I have two questions.
Okay.
One is when I meditate, after some time it totally blanks out and there is nothing, no dream, nothing. What is that state?
Yeah, very important thing is, of course, I'm the others who are not able to relate to this, please relax. When you are experiencing blankness, right? The awareing principle behind the blankness is Atma, actually. So you don't have to get worked up about it in any way. So that is actually the Nididhyasanam requirement. You kind of discern that, right? So there is no, don't get worried about that or anything. That is also a form of Nididhyasanam only, and that is very important that you are able to actually experience blankness. So that experience, the awareing principle is the Atma Tattvam, and that is what we aim for in Nididhyasana. So if you can focus on that, that is enough. But don't try hard to get to that state.
No, just to say, it doesn't come.
The thoughts, basically.
Yeah.
If you
So
have
actually,
Atma, it is fine.
That's right. So I don't focus on that. But let's say if I'm going to sit for half an hour, it comes at the end for about a few minutes automatically.
That's
So
fine.
that is not any of this, let's say, swapna or sushupta or any such thing.
No, not in meditation. Meditation, there is the active, the mind is active. That awareing principle is your mind, right? The reflected consciousness in the mind.
Okay.
You are aware, very much aware.
Yeah, correct. So thank you. The second question I had was, as soon as you sleep or around the time you wake up, there are some dreams. And sometimes the dreams are a bit mixed up. Is it the latest things the brain is churning?
See, all of these, the three states, there is not exact, cut off. So when you come out or go in, all these confusions happen, that's all. So don't overanalyze this, but it happens. Because, from deep sleep state to Swapna Avastha especially, and Swapna to Jagrata, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, Poorna Chandra.
Yeah, very good evening, madam. See, basically this vacant state and dream state, because deep sleep state, anyway, we cannot recognize. I don't know, have I been able to recognize my deep sleep state? No. So it is either what I can be aware of is a vacant state and a dream state, because in dream I can recollect some of the dreams. So definitely I can get it. But deep sleep, I'll never be able to recollect also. Now, many times when I go to the office in the morning, I drive my car, I've reached the office, and when I look back, I don't know how I reached from my home to residence. I crossed all the signals. So is it a dream state or a vacant state? Because
No, that is very much Jagrata Avastha, but the mind is not behind the sense organs. Very dangerous state. You must try and be very much behind the sense organs. That is because of alertness. The mind has to be behind the sense organs.
what we call as unconsciously competent. That's the state, is it?
Yeah, basically you're just, because of habit, you're just driving. Your mind is not behind it. That is why you're not able to discern it. That's all.
So it is Jagratam state only.
Jagrata Avastha only. If you sleep, and that's a totally different problem. I'm assuming that you're very much awake and then your mind is not behind it.
Yeah,
And power
correct.
Okay. Then who else? iPad. I don't know who it is. Please go ahead.
Yes, Madam. Venkateshwaran here. Just one. You see, in Sushupti state, everything is shut off, we say. But those involuntary actions like digestion or heartbeat or breathing, these things are going on, which we never realize it because mind is fully shut off, isn't it?
Basically, the prana, that's what I said. The little bit of prana, which is the involuntary action, right? The samana, prana, apana, etc. That's a very minimal thing which is operating in deep sleep state. And as I said, it is the samana which is responsible for digestion, then dhyana for circulation, etc. Right? So that is what is operating at that. Okay. So Narayan and Ramaya, please go ahead.
Hello, namaskar. I have got two questions. One is, when a person dies, the Sukshma Shareeram leaves the body. Does it also have the prana koshas? Two, can it be, after the death, can it be considered as if it is in a dream state?
No. We don't associate anything with dream state after that, because only as long as a person is there active in Jagrata Avastha, we talk about Swapna Avastha, etc. Otherwise, we don't speak about it. So we don't associate it with Swapna Avastha. But yes, after a person dies, the Sukshma Shareeram leaves. And when the Sukshma Shareeram leaves, all the components of the Sukshma Shareeram leave. So that's why I talked about Udana Prana also. All of them leave the Sthula Shareeram, and that is why the body is no longer alive.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, now I think there are some more questions here. What avastha is out of body experience? Out of body experience is basically a temporary death, which is, the Sukshma Shareeram is getting out of the body. So we hear in the Shastras that great yogis actually had this power to get out of the body and see the body, right? But otherwise, with normal people, out of body experience will only happen when near death experiences we see, or the person actually leaves the body, the person has died, right? And as I said, it's called a pretam, only when the Sukshma Shareeram is there. So we don't use any avastha to describe that. Okay, somebody has asked a very nice question. As from your experience, how to manage full-time work and worldly studies with learning seriously and experiencing Advaita Vedanta, right? I can tell you that the first 10 years of my journey, I have definitely spent about 1 or 2 hours per week. Let me say minimum 2 hours per week on Shravanam, and slowly I have over the years, it started increasing. So if you're in active work life and corporate life, 1 or 2 hours per week, Shravanam itself is a good thing because it will take you about 3 to 4 years to catch up with Gita and Tattvabodha. And after that, you can start with, Saguna Brahma Upasana, Saguna Ishvara Upasana, etc. So that meditation will help even in your office-related work. So if you want further guidance, do feel free to drop a mail to me and I will definitely, speak to you sometime and help you with this. Okay. The next question. In dream state, mind manifests Purva Sanchita desires. In awakened state, is not mind still manifesting Purva Sanchita desires? Please don't use the word Sanchita because it has a very, very important connotation which we are going to see shortly, right? So just say Vasanas. So in dream state, the Vasanas are getting activated and projecting a dream prapancha. That's all. You take it like that. Don't use the term Sanchita at all. Okay. So I hope I've answered your question. So these are all the type questions here. Are there any other hands that I have? No, I think I've answered everybody. Is there anything else? Any other person has any questions? Yeah. At all times, Udana is never active, right? Because if it becomes active, the prana will escape and death occurs. Yes. The Shastra gives some specific times when it is active. For instance, I didn't want to bring it up. When a person vomits, they say it's the Udana prana that helps because it is rejecting something which is not good for the body. So I hope that answers. So 1 or 2 such occasions the Shastra talks about. And I distinctly remember vomiting and of course death. Okay. I think we'll stop here and please see if you can revise this because if you don't, it will become difficult as we move forward. So, thank you very much. Dhanyavadaha.
Dhanyavadaha, Guruji.